I, Shishir Chaturvedi, Chairman of AOE, would like to welcome you all today to the 107th AOE meet of 21st August. That's today. Uh, our calendar this month, which has been on our tables for the entire month, showing us the photograph of lovely Mr. Rajiv Shankar, uh, also says a very beautiful quotation in the bottom of the calendar, which says, "Let the beauty of what you love be what you do." So apt for the birthday boy of this month, Rajiv Shankar. All those who have had a chance to connect Rajiv, especially for anything that you need from him, would know how wonderful a person he is. All of us at AOE wish you, Rajiv, a wonderful, wonderful year ahead. Today's we have some interesting lineup. We have our internal speaker, Mr. Ajay Amar, and Aparajita, giving sharing their journey and what they do with us. We have a 5-minute wisdom session, which will be done by Mr. Arjun Pandey. And we have Mr. Rakesh Mittal sitting all the way, presenting all the way from Washington, D.C., his journey from Churu to Charbing, D.C. AOE was formed almost now 9 years back. It was just a set of wonderful people who used to meet at different forums. They were from different age groups, different backgrounds, but the good thing there was that all of us like to meet each other because we understood that and believed that most of the good things that happen to us are because of good thoughts in our mind. And these thoughts are there in the mind in the first place because of good people in our life. So one day we decided to form a organization like this where we will be meeting at least once a month to share wisdom and knowledge. And we decided to create more opportunities to interact with fellow members and helping fellow members through sharing of knowledge and experience, because entrepreneurship is a lonely journey and we all know this. So AOE has been providing valuable to its members, valuable learning from guest speakers, interactions and learning from some very good fellow entrepreneurs and good human beings, and a possibility of building relationship with some great people from varied fields. We, before Corona, which is now known as BC, we used to meet at India Habitat Center regularly. We used to have our quarterly socials and annual socials where even families could interact together. And we are looking forward to those times. I am actually very excited. The daily numbers are down to 0.1% positivity rate. In days to come, not very far from now, I wish that we all start meeting like the way Pradeep was telling us just now. The foundation stones of AOE were laid by our founder chairman, Mr. Veer Sagar, and our past chairman, Mr. Naveen Sardana. Our current managing team, which is me, Mr. Naresh Vij as vice chairman, Mr. Baljeet Singh is the general secretary, Mr. Vikas is the treasurer, Mr. Abhineet is the secretary, ably supported by Mr. Tejinder Singh Bedi, who is the executive administration, and we have our friend, philosopher and guide, our past chairman, Mr. Naveen Sardana, and Mr. Veer Sagar, the founder chairman. AOE's webpage, which is aoeindia.in, is looking much, much, much better, thanks to the support from AoEan Abhijit Roy. If you have not seen it recently, please go there. Look at your profile also. If you want anything to be changed, let us know. We are there on YouTube. If on YouTube you just put a session of Entrepreneur India, the first listing will be ours, and you can subscribe it to be notified of all changes. I mean, anything that is added there. All our monthly meetings, after proper editing by AOEan Arjun Pandey, gets uploaded there. We have a Facebook page also, which is facebook.com AOE India. Which is now being looked after by Mr. Praveen Prasangi, hoping it sees even better days. One recent thing of the last 1 year endeavor that AOE did was the mentoring, AOE mentoring, where AOE has successfully mentored a couple of people. It's a great work being done by the team of Mr. Veer Sagar, Mr. Sanjeev Narayan, and Mr. Rajiv Shankar Mathur. Today's agenda is, we'll welcome a new member, Mr. Abhishek Jain, and there will be introduction of member and guests. We'll have one-to-one session updates. We will have internal speaker, AOE mentoring update. Mr. Arjun Pandey's slot, our guest speaker, Mr. Rakesh Mittal, the Treasurer and General Secretary report and closing remark. With this, I move on to, at first, welcoming our new member, Mr. Abhishek Jain. Abhishek is a 39-year-old founder of VB eSolutions Private Limited. He's based in Noida, founded in 2005. Software export of e-commerce, accounting apps, and Oracle NetSuite customization. He has had education of PGDBA from UK and engineering degree. I think Abhishek, if you would like to say a little more about yourself, that would be much better.
Born in a place called, near Meerut. So I grew up in a boarding school in Meerut. Then did my graduation from BTech from near Delhi, like Ghaziabad. Did my master's from UK. Always wanted to do business. Though my family was like slightly entrepreneurial, so like they had a petrol station near Delhi. But then I did my after passing out my BTech, I still tried working in a job as a software developer. Then did my master's. Again tried working, like reviving my business here in India. Couple of failed attempts. But still now working in leading my company here, like 25 people strong company from Noida. Last 4 years bedridden with Corona. So anyway, so it has been a long journey, and people have been very kind, particularly last 4 months. A lot of prayers have helped me survive these scary times of Corona, and I'm really very thankful to the world and all the people around me, all my family and my friends, and particularly AoEans also have been very helpful during this period. My company, as Shishi told, is where we work. We do export. We do connect applications together. Primary application we connect is like Oracle NetSuite with e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Jetwish, and then Shopify, BigCommerce. This sort of apps we do. We started have an app developed for Indian like Tally with Shopify. This sort of applications we do, and we also customize Oracle NetSuite ERP. So like automations within the company, like approval workflow sort of thing within ERPs. That's our expertise.
Right. Thank you so much, and we welcome you. And we wish you really much rapid recovery in the days to come.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Can I request now our members to please introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Veer Sagar.
Good afternoon, AoEans. My name is Veer Sagar. I have about 56 years of working experience, and the last few years have been spent on doing something close to my heart. Actually, I've done everything close to my heart, but this one is something totally out of the box, doing cricket. And this is live telecasting of club cricket, where we go and with our cameras and telecast club cricket matches for anyone to see anywhere on their mobiles. And now we have come out with e-coaching. Since everybody is coming with something or the other, we said, why not we come out with e-coaching? So where people, boys, girls, anybody, anywhere can log on to our system, select a coach, and we have at the moment 45 coaches who have registered with us. Select a coach, pay the money, and then take on online coaching with him. Today, it's a one-to-one direct on interactive. From next month, we will add to it videos. That means the player who's getting coached can bring his own video and share that with the coach, so that the coach and the player can see the video, see the actual stroke, and then give training. And then the whole recording session, all session will be recorded. Thank you.
Thank you, Veer. Mr. Naveen Sardana, please.
Good evening, friends. This is Naveen Sardana, past chairman of AOE and partner in Living Luxuries, which is a firm involved in the business of modular furniture. We used to import furniture from Germany some years ago, but with the quality of kitchens and wardrobes improving dramatically in India, we have now focused on the Indian product, which more or less matches the German product at a much more competitive price. We are also into the business of high-end kitchen appliances, built-in kitchen appliances, such as you can say Bertozini or Falmec or Siemens, Axo, any of these top brands are available with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. Can I request Mr. Rajiv Kohli, please?
My name is Rajiv Kohli, and I took premature retirement from the Army in 91. Since then, I've been involved in telecom, software development for telecom, execution of telecom projects, and supporting foreign companies for their defense projects in India in the telecom sector. Right now, I'm just a consultant, and I am a retired consultant, and I mentor some people, a company which is into Bluetooth audio products. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Can I request Mr. Baljit Singh Bedi, please?
Hi, I'm Baljit Singh Bedi. I am founder, member, and general secretary of AOE. I am a chartered accountant by profession. I have been in practice for the last 40 years, since 1980. We are a group of 3 chartered accountants, and our firm does audit, tax audit, income tax work, bank loans, syndication. We are good in FEMA, GST, drawing agreements, financial planning, and advise in business planning. Thank you.
Can I request Mr. Arjun Pandey, please?
I am Arjun Pandey. I have a background in media content. It falls broadly into 3 categories. One is as a production house. I own something called 24 Frames. We make films, television shows. We've done that internationally. Films are played out in about 170 countries. Second is a digital blank where we have a platform called Delhipedia. I'm also investing currently in a couple of other websites which are news-based in the digital blank, and we'll be doing a stock footage website as well. The last is I am president of a news channel called India Ahead. We've been trying to bring back news to Indians within India and globally. We're moving away from Delhi and Bombay. We are on Tata Sky, Airtel 617373, and now on Dish with 775. We have a lot of coverage from the states of India. So every day we actually give different states news. It's not just about Delhi or Bombay. And we are trying to build up a lot of the voices of people. Anything I can help any of the AOE members on communication or video or content, please feel free.
Thank you, Arjun. Mr. Vikas Rajput, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vikas Rajput. I had a software company called eTech Services in Gurgaon. We specialize in developing softwares for healthcare industry, both in the public health and the private health segment. We work with governments, NGOs, and pharmaceutical companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas. Mr. Neeraj Bhargav, please.
दोस्तों को मेरा प्रणाम और जय हिंद। मेरा नाम नीरज भार्गव है और मैं एक प्रिंटिंग एंड पैकेजिंग कंपनी चलाता हूँ। ग्रेटर नोएडा में हमारी फैक्ट्री है एंड हम लोग मोनो कार्टन्स, डुप्लेक्स बोर्ड और कार्डबोर्ड बॉक्सेस के लिए फार्मास्यूटिकल और एफएमसीजी कंपनीज के लिए बनाते हैं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Neeraj. Mr. Atul Kumar Saxena, please.
Good afternoon. I am Atul Kumar Saxena. I wear 2 caps. One cap is of chamber. Presently, I am member of and also the president of Indian Importer Chamber of Commerce. We are a global-based organization with independent chapters in 17 countries. If you include India, it's 18 countries. Number 2, I wear a cap as a businessman. I have 2 companies. One is into a 360-degree solution in healthcare. That's OmeImpex.com. And another one is OmeImesco.com, which is an importing company. We import, warehouse, and sell our products only through Amazon and walk-in customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. Mr. Sanjeev Narayan, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sanjeev Narayan. I'm founder of a company called SGS Techniques, which is into electronic manufacturing services. We are based out of Gurgaon as the headquarters and have plants in Himachal, Gurgaon itself, then in Bangalore. And we export mainly to Europe, and we have an operation in Germany also. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Mr. Rajiv Shankar Mathur, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rajiv Mathur here. My background is that I've been in technology for over 40 years, IT, ITES, and all of that. And then now we are in our 5th year of actually delivering healthcare services, which is focused on critical care services in outside the hospital, in the home, in Delhi NCR, in Mumbai. We are also in Chandigarh and expanding into other parts of Punjab, Ludhiana. We've done already Patiala and Jalandhar soon, and sometime by end of next quarter, we would have established operations in Bangalore, in Kolkata, and we are also looking at some of the catchment areas like Nepal. We've had a number of inquiries there, and Bangladesh, if that works out okay, but depending on the situation, how far we can go. But essentially, we've had a lot of patients who come into Delhi, for example, or come into Bombay, but then they go back to their hometowns where they need those services. And therefore, we put packages which they can, implement in those areas, from Muradabad to Aligarh to Shillong to Digboy recently, etc., etc. And therefore, the model that has been developed is how we can manage these services remotely, yet provide local expertise with the staff over there. So the company is called Critical Care Unified, and it's headquartered here in New Delhi, and we're looking at a very period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Mr. Abhijit Roy, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Abhijit from Apna Infotech, a boutique software firm operating nationwide with team members spanning across the country, with from as far wide as Coimbatore, Bhubaneswar, and Manipur. We like to see ourselves as software commandos in the world ruled by large software armies. This month, I want to proudly announce that we have been certified by Great Place to Work with a score of 88%. Great Place to Work has an extensive evaluation in the form of a proprietary trust index survey and a culture audit, and we are happy to say that we came out with flying colors. We now hope to be listed in their list of 100 best places to work in India. Thanks, everybody. Thank
you, Abhijit. Mr. Tejinder Singh Bedi, please.
Good afternoon. I am Tejinder Singh Bedi. I do freelancing and I am executive administration in AOE. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejinder. That leaves me, I guess. I am Shishir, founder, member, and chairman of AOE. I have been in the field of essential oil for 24 years. Bulk of the time, I was into export of essential oils to Far East, Southeast Asia, Europe, and America. For the last 5 years, I have my own brand of essential oils where we are doing B2C business in small essential oil bottles that people are using for aromatherapy, but also for skin, hair. Our brand name is Meraki Essentials. Company name is Meraki Essentials. Website is merakiessentials.com. And we also sell through marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkarts of the world. That's about me. With this, we move on to our next segment, for which I request Mr. Vikas to take over, please.
Thank you, Shishir. As entrepreneurs, we all realize how critical one-to-one interactions are for the purpose of building trust. And at AOE, we firmly believe that trust should be built, relationship be nurtured, and business will automatically follow. As a ritual, we shall focus even more to enable one-to-ones amongst all our fellow members, and other than introducing ourselves, we shall also be introduced by a fellow member at times. We would request each AoEan to take up the initiative to present a fellow AoEan. I would request Shishir to tell the group about the one-to-ones he has had in the previous month.
So this month, I had a wonderful one-to-one with AoEan Mandeep Vasu. The interaction with him was really, really very nice because he comes across as a person who is not only very dynamic in his business, he has his own garment manufacturing unit in Faridabad. He is a person who started his career in New York, moved on to Germany as a systems analyst working for a textile company, but used that experience to build up his own garment manufacturing unit in Faridabad. He's exporting to Europe, USA, UK. And the good thing is, I really liked about him is this, he was a guy who is always willing to learn. I had one more one-to-one. Actually, we had already had one-to-one last month, but we decided that that Zoom meeting was not enough. So Neeraj Bhargav and Ritu Bhargav, we met along. I mean, I met along with my wife Shobha, and yes, that time, 1.5 hour that we would have sat at coffee shop appeared to be very nice. Even that appeared to be short, which means that we still need to know more about you, Neeraj. It was a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Naveen sir, I believe you also had a one-to-one.
Yeah, but I had a one-to-one coincidentally with Mandeep Basu. Unfortunately, our one-to-one was he was traveling in the car, so there was a connectivity problem. So we really, after about 7, 8, 10 minutes, we decided we sort of have it some other time. But he was also telling me exactly what Shishir has already informed all of you. His wife and children are UK based. They are UK citizens. He himself is an Indian citizen.
Okay.
So he spends half his time in UK and half his time in India. And it was wonderful talking to him for that brief 5 or 7 minutes. Of course, he had to have his mask on. So, but still, I mean, we decided we'll catch up again.
Neeraj Bhargav sir, would you like to share something about your one-to-one with Shishir?
Yeah, we had a nice coffee meeting, and while the coffee meeting also, I could see that both our family backgrounds are more or less the same. I mean, a lot of similarities out there. So it didn't feel like that I am meeting some person new or that way. I mean, it was just like, और बिल्कुल दिल खोल के वाली बातें होने लगी थी बिल्कुल वहाँ पे.
Thank you everyone for sharing your one-to-one inputs. As you have seen, one-to-ones actually bring about so many deep knowledge about other colleagues at AOE. We all should try and do at least 1 or 2 one-to-ones every month, and that will create the energy in the group. So thank you everyone who has done the one-to-ones. It's time for the introduction of the internal speaker. This month's internal speaker is AoEan Ajay Amar and his daughter Aparajita Amar. Ajay Amar sir is a respected member of AOE and he is also a chartered accountant by profession. His daughter Aparajita Amar is the co-founder of SHLC, Sexual Harassment Law Compliance Advisory. She is a certified sexual harassment and workplace diversity advisor and an advocate. At SHLC, Aparajita and her colleagues provide documentation, consultation, advisory services to organizations assisting their clients in complying with the sexual harassment law. They work on drafting anti-sexual harassment policies, sensitization and awareness session, and ICC capacity building. Aparajita has researched extensively on women empowerment laws. She has deposed before the Parliamentary Standing Committee on the Surrogacy Regulation Bill 2019. She has co-authored several papers such as the Emerging Laws Relating Surrogacy, a Procreational Right for Single Parent, Transgenders and Foreigners, published on the SCC online blog. She has also presented a paper at the Conference on Statelessness and Citizenship organized by Center for Statelessness and Refugee Studies on Surrogacy Law. Aparajita has also authored and presented a research paper at the National Conference on Indian Society and Emerging Social Issues. Need for Recognition of Marital Rape in India at Rajiv Gandhi National University of Law, which was being published in a book, Contemporary India and Gender. She was a legal development member of the Bloomberg Initiative on Global Road Safety for Strengthening Road Safety in India and has represented India at workshops held in Beijing and Geneva. She has authored papers such as Accident Information Report, The Importance and Need, published on Live Law. She is a graduate from MIT Law School, Delhi, and has previously worked as a law researcher with Justice Geeta Mittal at Delhi High Court. So over to Ajay Amar sir and Aparajita. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to connect with everyone today. So I'll get to it. I'll just do a quick screen share. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So I'd like to start by giving a little brief about our journey and how we started. So we started back in 2018. SHLC started with an idea to create a one-stop solution, one place for all employers to ensure that if they want to implement POSH compliance, they know where they can go and get all compliances in one place in a employer and employee friendly manner. One of the major challenges which comes with a compliance like this is there's an apprehension on the employer end that do I need to invest money in this? If I invest money into it, will my employees feel safe or will that increase liabilities on me? So on this, I'd just like to take a moment to talk about one of our clients. So this client we have been working in for the past year is a logistics company, pan-India based. And this is a second term renewal with them. And there has been a challenge that they did not want to, and they were pushing on their extension of the new coming in term. Unfortunately, this very morning, we received a call from one of their team members regarding a sexual assault case on one of the premises. And now they are having to invest more money into it because they didn't have certain mechanisms already in place because they were trying to do cost saving. So the objective of our organization is to, one, create an environment where we are able to give those services so that organizations can prevent that, be compliant with law, and in case some unfortunate incident takes place, instead of being in a firefighting mode, we are in a mode where we are able to cater to those situations. We have had the chance to work with a diverse set of companies. So corporates like JLL, small companies, startups across Delhi, across Gurgaon, Noida, and because of the pandemic, we're also being able to work across India now, pan-India. So these are some photos from some of our physical sessions. Now, because we're doing virtually, so this is a photo from one of our services regarding an internal committee. This is a huge company which has 45 members in an internal committee. So because they're pan-India location. So because of the pandemic, we had a chance to do this virtually. It was much easier for us to do it virtually. Easier to close, easier to execute in that sense. We've also had a chance to partner with a lot of organizations. So a huge segment of our work also is creating awareness just about employer duties. So we've partnered with several industry associations and bodies. So one of them example is ESA India. This was one of the more recent ones. This was January this year. We did a workshop for all ESA India members where members joined in and understood more about what are our responsibilities as an employer. This was more in terms of colleges, universities. So there's an organization called FII, Feminism in India. We collaborated with them and targeted college students, college teachers. We try to make all our content very relatable. So this is an example of an instance of sexual harassment taking place at college. We've also collaborated with EMA, which is Events and Entertainment Management Association. We are their POSH resource partner. So we are working with organizations, industry organizations, which would be, say, dance agencies or event managers, event planners. Also, we are collaborating with something called the Human Capital Magazine because a huge part of our target audience is HRs. HRs are generally responsible for implementing these mechanisms. So we've collaborated with Human Capital Magazine and done webinars with them in the past 2 years as well. One question which always comes up is how is this and why is this relevant in a virtual setting? So this can also happen virtually. Whenever we are interacting with people on Zoom calls or on messages, on emails, we are still interacting with our colleagues. So instead of it happening physically, it can happen virtually. Having said that, what is just before the pandemic of what all data was gathered, there was also a rising understanding amongst working professionals that they wanted to know how compliant the organization is. What are the safety mechanisms or what is it that the employee is doing to keep my workplace safe? So I think Sir just mentioned that, the organization is a great place to work certified. So employees now want to work in organizations that are safe, that are great place to work certified. They want that assurance. So just because of the fact that this is a mandatory compliance and because this is a thing which helps employees feel safe, this is a very, very important requirement now. From companies that have not had compliances in place and have had incidents happen, there's been a 19% decline in their stock market performance, 4.2% decline in their return on assets, 10.9% decline on return on equity. And these are all data which have been gathered from very valid sources. Who is this law or our service applicable on? It's applicable across the industry. Any organization that you can think of that has 10 or more than 10 employees, they need to be compliant. NGO, corporate office, a school, a hospital, a hotel, anything and everything needs to be complying with this. Some of the penalties that are prescribed under law, we will also be talking about some of our services and what all is mandatory. But just as an introduction, the law in itself says that if you are not complying with any of the provisions under the Act, there's a penalty of up to 50,000 rupees if it's the first time violation. If it's a second time violation, it could be cancellation of business license, withdrawal of business license, refusal to renew business license. Offices in Gurgaon, 2-3 years back, there were around 3,000 notices sent to offices in Gurgaon telling them that you're not compliant. If you do not tell us why you have not complied, we would be imposing a 50,000 rupee fine on you. Even last year, this happened in Noida, where the Noida Local Complaints Committee issued notices to more than 1,000 companies. Again, similar situation, saying that why are you not compliant? Furthermore, a lot of times organizations believe that, okay, the maximum amount that has to be then put in is 50,000 rupees, and that's a myth. If we are not compliant and a situation comes in where there is an incident and we as employers don't have mechanisms, the court, and the matter escalates to court, the court can impose a compensation which has no cap. So in the past, there has been a company in Chennai which was imposed of 1.68 crores as compensation, where the company had to pay that money for not having an internal committee in place, because the aggrieved person in that situation had to go to court and file a complaint. Some of the employer duties, it's mandatory to have a POSH policy. It's mandatory to have employee awareness sessions. It's mandatory to have notices and posters at all places in the offices, either on the notice board. In a virtual setting, it could be on your internal portal. Also informing employees, consultants of your internal complaints committee. How and where we come in is we typically go into an organization, do an internal audit, a small audit to understand what all is in place, then help you customize and put that mechanism in place. We provide an end-to-end service of it. We provide drafting or vetting of a policy, drafting of employment contracts or clauses of the same, setting up of a committee, training of a committee, employee sensitization. Every internal committee has to have an external member. If you don't have an external member and investigation goes on, it is invalid. And if it'll go to court, the court will say, do it again. So that just becomes a longer cost process. So we also provide support for external members, insurance advisory. And if companies just want to understand what are the best practices in place that can be additional to this, we also do audits for that. So currently the law is gender specific. So it's only a woman can file a complaint against a man, which is one of the limitations of the law. But in all our work that we do, we try to ensure that majority of the companies have a gender neutral mechanism. And if they don't, then we at least help the company understand how can they create a safe space for anyone who's not a woman wanting to file a complaint of sexual harassment. Thank you.
With this, can I request Mr. Baljit Singh Bedi to please put our vote of thanks? And Aparajita, before he does that, I'm very, very impressed to see your presentation.
Below the hand.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Thank you.
Aparajita,
Yes.
Amar is a confident and young lady lawyer and has sensibly followed on one path only, that is sexual harassment, as a sexual harassment lawyer. This is a great approach, as she has found the correct route for herself, which she believes in and works on. Thanks, Aparajita, for educating us on POSH and sexual harassment. We at AOE wish you the best in your future endeavors. Thank you. Thank you for coming and speaking to us.
Thank you so much.
And we move on. We are slightly behind schedule. Can we request the mentoring committee, Mr. Veer Sagar, Sanjeev ji is also here, Rajiv ji, to give us a quick update on AOE mentoring, please?
Rajiv, come in whenever. Basically, we have almost finished with Vikas. Hopefully, he's gone back better, not worse. Sanjay is work in progress. He's very busy traveling. We now taken on a third person, Amar, and hopefully we will start processing with him. Rajiv, you want to add?
No, it's been a great experience, as we've discussed before. There has been very, very intensive interaction, excellent contribution from everybody, from the mentee and from the mentors like Sanjeev ji, Baljit ji, Veer, of course, and all of that. And it has been, I think, a great learning for everybody on this. And there was a bit of a lull due to the pandemic and all of that. But I think we are putting our skates on again and shall put more energy behind it. And it's just the interaction which really helps, because Vikas knows all about his business. He's on top of it. But I think just the discussion and taking different views and going through the process is very valuable. So yeah, looking forward to more in the pipeline. And it's been great so far.
Sanjeev, you want to add?
I think you have covered it all. I just hope we can speed it up now because we've had a major 2-month lull. So let's get going now. That's what I would say.
The fact that we've got a third person wanting to be mentored, I assume, is a vote of confidence in the process. Okay. Thank you, Shishir. Over to you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Veer. I noticed that 2 members who were not there earlier at the time of introduction, Mr. Naresh Vij and Mr. Mandeep Vasu, has in between joined in. Can I request them quickly to introduce themselves, please? Mr. Naresh.
Hi, sorry for for joining in late. It feels like I know you already, Shashir and Naveen. Both of you made an effort to reach out and connect. So as a way of introduction, I joined AOE a few months ago. And it's been a very interesting experience because it's nice to come across and meet with other entrepreneurs. And in this group, there's plenty of people with tons of experience who one can learn from. And definitely unburdened with sharing. So it's a great group. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Mandeep. You missed out when me and Naveen were putting in words of praise for you. We'll move on. Can we have Mr. Arjun Pandey, please, putting in few words of wisdom?
I'm just going to try and see if I can get a small presentation. It's just to background up. 1 second. So this is maybe a part of my life that some of you aren't aware of. In 2012, I figured I have thyroid, an issue with thyroid, and I kept probing it, and I sort of got to a point where I understood that it is something called Hashimoto's thyroid. Now, it's an autoimmune condition of the thyroid. It's not hypo, it's not hyper. It exhibits both the symptoms. And when I got it, I realized because we were going to Sri Lanka, I was organizing a peace march there with the president, and I'd have long hours of waiting for meetings. And I'd actually sleep the whole night, 10 hours, get up and sleep 12 hours in the day. And it was very bizarre because I have a lot of energy normally and I am very active. So anyway, so slowly got to the point of getting some tests done, met an eye doctor, kept reading a lot. And one of the first things I realized was, it's a battle of the mind. Are we in a mind or a mindset where I decide I want to win over this, or is it something that I decide that, I have lost the battle? So when I got to understanding it's an autoimmune, and then I started tracking the different impacts of it, or what could happen downriver, what could happen upriver, I had to make a lot of lifestyle changes. A lot of that has to do with eating. Again, in my reading in the course of all this material, I realized that the gut or our entire digestive system acts as a second brain for humans. And if that gets impacted, everything gets impacted. So then in part of my reading, 2 interesting things came up. I have a picture of the HIV virus on the left, and right is something called the Epstein-Barr virus. So some of this may be scary in terms of dietary paths that you all may choose here, going on here, but very interesting learnings on how something so small, even a few grains of wheat or something like eggs, can damage us. The HIV virus, and the reason why it's there, the first time the HIV virus was actually found, or traces of it was during World War II, when a bunch of young kids in an orphanage were found that they were HIV positive and they were developing. But at that time, the body's immunity was so good and the virus was so weak that a human body or a child's body could defeat it. Cut to many decades later, the virus becomes stronger, right? And at that point, HIV then moves into AIDS, and we saw the whole epidemic that grew up in the 80s and 90s, and the whole cases of AIDS that were globally present. I think mankind came together, understood the virus, and took preventive steps. The Epstein-Barr virus is the underlying virus for some 60 odd autoimmune conditions. The easy results of the Epstein-Barr virus is shingles or herpes, but even multiple sclerosis, MS, or Hashimoto's thyroid are all linked downriver to this virus. Now, the virus in 17 and 1800s wasn't that virulent. You could get it, the human body had the ability to defeat it. With industrialization and the introduction of heavy metals in our surrounding area, the virus found a food source. So in terms of allergen, right, the three things that clustered, one was dairy. And some of these I've just put so that you get a sense of it, from shortness of breath to even bronchial conditions and issues. Dairy does add that, wheezing, vomiting, hives, rashes. All of these are dairy. When you look at gluten, fatigue, bloating, brain fog, gut conditions, if you don't have a proper digestive system, you eat something and you feel, sick later, or there's conditions where you even have these knots in your intestines. All of those are somewhere rooted back into gluten and the sources with that. And one of them is, another one is soya, which is on the right. It's creeped in. It's creeped in massively into all our foods. Processed foods have that. Anything which is processed, strangely, lots of chips will have dairy, milk solids, which are not really needed in potato chips, right? What we eat is going to have a massive impact on all of us. If you compare two societies, America and Japan, Japan spends more on the quality of food they eat, and therefore, as a result, they have to spend less on healthcare. While in the US, they spend very little on the quality of food they eat, and they spend massive amounts on healthcare. So the choice is in our hands. And the choice is simple. In the next 10 years, you're going to see human longevity increase by another 35 years in this decade, right? So if any of us were expecting to live to 80, we're going to hit 110, 120. Over the next 50 years, this may grow up much more. Futurists postulate that the first person who's going to live to 300 naturally has already been born, right? So a lot of it will come back to diet. A lot of it will come back to reading and finding out materials. I'm available for longer, more deep dive chats around this. Keeping the paucity of time, I'm just going to run through 4 of my interesting current favorites that has got me a lot of insight into this. The first is this Californian doctor called Stephen Gundry. He talks about how different foods can actually attack our gut. What is not suitable for us and what is good. For India, wheat and the variant of wheat came in much later. So it's not suitable for our gut. Dairy in North India, 84% is adulterated spurious. So that causes more damage. If you go down south, you go to Kerala and Tamil Nadu, the percentages are so low of adulteration that people don't have that much allergic reactions to it. This one, Isabel Wentz, is a very interesting one for anyone who knows anyone with an autoimmune condition. While it is about Hashimoto's protocol, it goes back to upriver conditions on health. She was a clinical pathologist, so she went very systematic on it. She says that first you need to clean out your liver. Very simple protocol around that. Second is your adrenal glands. Then you go and attack your digestive systems. There are foods that you should avoid. There are foods that you should eat. It comes out so simply. Anthony Williams, Thyroid Healing, he's got a bunch of books around that, including longevity and how you can grow healthier. Same with Stephen Gundry. Both of them talk about particular foods that impact you for the long run. Cultured and gut health is the 4th, but these first 3 are very, very good. In case any of you aren't able to get a copy, I'm happy to get a photocopy done for you. Thank you.
I am now to take over whatever time we have left. I would now request Mr. Rajiv Shankarji to introduce Mr. Rakesh Mittal. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Baljit. I will not take much time in the introduction because everybody has a background of Rakesh Mittal, so I won't run through that, but I will just add a few points. First of all, it's an absolute pleasure, and I'm delighted to introduce Rakesh, whom I've known for nearly 22 years or so. And he's been a great ex-colleague of mine. He's a very dear friend and somebody who I also have a tremendous professional regard for. Yeah. So Rakesh, really, I mean, some of the key points I'd like to mention is his single-minded focus. You know, one of the things that I've seen over the years is very, very straight, single-minded focus. We came together when we were in the early years starting off our IT and software business in Europe. More recently, he's taken on an entrepreneurial role. Not only is he a director on some companies, but has also championed architecting some new products. So without taking much time and giving more time to Rakesh, I'd let him walk us through his journey and what he'd like to share with the AOE members. Thank you. Rakesh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rajiv. I mean, thank you for such a nice introduction. I mean, a lot of things which Rajiv talked about, I really learned from Rajiv, to be honest. So I named it Churu to Charming DC. Instead of introducing myself, let me run through the presentation because I'll cover some of the things in the presentation. So, I was born in Jaipur, but I hardly lived in Jaipur because my father was in government service. So from my childhood, my primary education was in a place called Churu, which is really desert in Rajasthan. And, from there I moved to Pilani, which is, again, big in desert, but it's the hub of education. Then my first job was in Delhi, which is flyovers and roads. I mean, that was the first thing we saw in our lives. Moved to Lucknow with Wipro, which I call the Nawab city or the city of the, Hazratganj. And then moved to Bangalore in my final role with Wipro, which is the Garden City. And then from there, I moved to UK. That's where I met Rajiv with HCL Technologies. And very quickly, I moved to Netherlands. I was supposed to go to Brussels. I did go to Brussels, but I ended up really setting up the Benelux office in Netherlands first. And then we did set up a subsidiary in Belgium as well as in Sweden. And then eventually I landed up in US. So I landed up in Dallas, Texas, which is, I'm sure you've heard about the cowboys and cowboy shoes. And then from there, I landed up in Dayton, Ohio, which is the biggest Air Force base in the world. And then finally, Washington, DC. So, lot of movement, close encounters with lots of brilliant people while navigating 3 continents. I mean, working and living is different from just traveling. And that's what, I happen to do. And met people like Rajiv, who were great mentors, still continues to be a mentor. So, I mean, this was the journey. I already talked about it. Yeah. And then I talked about the fact that the industry from 50 million grew to, targeted to be about 165 billion. And the number of GICs, which are really the captives for all these multinational companies, growing dramatically from almost, few in 1988 to now touching 1,250. And if you see the number of tech startups really, really ballooning right now, touching almost 9,000. I mean, still nothing compared to what we see in US, but, we are getting there. Similarly, in this journey, the technology's changed. So it started with mainframe. In 88, I still remember in Pilani, I used to actually work on the mainframe system. We used to get those IBM punch cards. And then client server, then ERP, then business intelligence and the cloud. And now the machine learning and artificial intelligence are the next few waves. So I'm sure most of you guys know this, so I'll not take a lot of time. I just wanted to. And then changing avatars, started my career with Wipro where entrepreneurship was 20-30%. I mean, most of the time you have more employees. With HCL technology, initially it starts low, but as soon as you get your feet on the ground, and as soon as you learn the business, the entrepreneurship can touch 70 to 80%. I mean, huge amount of delegation. And I heard people talking about how HCL lets you learn, and so many entrepreneurs have come out of HCL. Headstrong, again, was very similar, 50 to 60% entrepreneurship. And in Genpact, it tends to go down. That's why I put it as 20 to 30%. And therefore, at some point, I moved out, and, I got involved with some of the companies. I'm on the board of NEWT Global, EFM, FM. Recently, I've also joined another company called Rethinking Works. And these are companies which are primarily in very, very new technology and very different thinking. And I'll talk about that. And mostly around cloud and AI and new technology. So in terms of, the new thinking that I was talking about, I mean, all my life, I've worked in, companies. Initially, it was hardware, so it was boxes. But even in the, software companies, most of the time it was about headcount, expertise, professional experience, COE-based delivery, but it was really people-based delivery. And that always concerned me. I mean, any review we did, we said, oh, how has the account grown from 100 people to 500 people, things like that. But it was eventually all the contracts were people-based, TNM, whatever you can call it, COE-based, doesn't matter. And we said, can we change this mechanism to platform-led solutions? And that's what, my thinking was, and that's what this company does, which is NEWT Global. I mean, they really focus on bringing platforms. So who are we? I mean, deep cloud platform company, non-linear design thinking teams, impossible to possible. So addressing primarily white spaces. We said, we'll not try to reinvent the wheel. If there is a solution available, we'll adopt it, but we'll build on the top of it what's not available. So this is really the brief. I mean, this is more than 10-year-old company. I got involved about 5 years ago, but we've changed the DNA of the company completely. I mean, company was primarily into staffing business. Now staffing is less than 10% of our business. Now the company is very focused on these two platforms, CAMP and DMAP, and it's focused on these services. And there is a huge investment in the ecosystem of partnerships, which is very important in cloud, because again, in cloud, like I said, we don't want to invent everything. And then we have very, very high quality customers, global customers, including Fortune 50 companies. And this is what the platforms are. So this is a application migration platform. DMAP is a database migration platform. And these are very critical. I mean, any customer who wants to move to cloud has to move applications and data. So therefore, it's very, very relevant in today's market and will remain relevant for next 5 to 7 years. And these are some of the services which we deliver around these platforms. Just wanted to mention that this company also achieved a very, very big milestone. We actually have a platform which has now been licensed by Microsoft and adopted for global rollout. And the reason is their own target addressable market TAM was about $10 billion on, taking people from Oracle to Postgres, which is an open source platform. But if you combine it with our DMAP, which automates that, because of the speed of implementation faster and adoption of cloud faster, the Microsoft TAM increases to more than $100 billion. And that's the reason Microsoft actually adopted our platform and licensed our platform after almost 8 to 9 months of evaluation. So that is a big success for this company. With that, I moved to another company. So, we found out that the captives in India were always struggling for employee transportation. Because if they have to be successful in India, they had to ensure that, employees reach in time, and most of the employees, can't find proper transportation to the office. So we actually created a SaaS platform, software as a service platform for employee transportation, which automates the entire transportation process. And it's a very tricky process. I mean, I can just give you some idea. For example, one of the customers, Shell, they showed us that, actually we met their HR head, and he said, look, my biggest issue is I cannot really, they have some HR survey every year. And he says, India gets dinged on employee transportation so badly that India actually becomes the lowest preferred country in the Shell infrastructure. And the reason was employee transportation. And the reason is because Chennai traffic is very crazy. And it can be very hot in summer. It can be extremely humid in summer. And Shell provides transportation to all the employees. But the problem was the employees were given pickup points across the city. And most of the employees had to walk on average about 0.75 kilometers to reach that point, because they don't pick up from home, they pick up from pickup points. And so they were all given a window, you'll be picked up between 8 and 8:45 in the morning. The problem was the employee will go there at 8 o'clock. Till 8:45, nothing happens. Even at night, sometimes the cab will show up at 9:30. And they have no idea. So they put up a call center. There were almost 30 people in the call center, but the call center guy wouldn't know where the cab is. So they'll call the cab guy, and then they'll find out where the cab guy is. But then the cab guy can't predict when will he or she reach that particular location. So it was a pretty crazy stuff, extremely expensive, very shoddy service. Employees were waiting for one and a half hours to be picked up. And, there was hardly any safety for women. Sometimes, the drivers are leaving a woman alone in the night, which is not supposed to be safe. So there were a lot of compliance issues they were not meeting. There was no data on when the license is expiring for the driver. Is the pollution control done on the cab? Is the cab safe enough to travel? So all those things were never done. So this particular platform that I talked about, EFM-FM, which is through a company called NGFE, NEWT Global Future Ventures, really focuses on automating all this. And this now is in 4 countries, 14 cities with over 150,000 users, 69 facilities are catered, and 35,000 trips are managed on a daily basis. I mean, of course, not in the coronavirus times, and more than 6,000 cabs are engaged. So very, very powerful platform. It's also ISO 27001 certified, and it got the best, platform award for the workplace partner recently, about a year ago. Some learnings, at least I believe, that get into 100% entrepreneurship faster. I think I took too long, but I realized I enjoyed far more. I know I got that opportunity in many companies, including HCL, including Wipro, including Headstrong. But honestly, getting to 100% entrepreneurship is very different. With that, I'll pause. That's all I had. As they say, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. I think that is the biggest, learning in life about the business, or anything for that matter, even in the family for that matter.
Thank you very much, Rakesh ji, for staying with us from the very beginning of today's session and imparting to us your journey, Churu to charming DC, and your session on employee transportation, ERP and cloud transportation IP, a journey of your entrepreneurship covering your life. You have talked about your time investment in and what you do in NEWT Global Consulting and its growth. Your enthusiasm in your work is very impressive and is catching. Thank you for a most impressive deliberation, especially on employee transportation ERP solutions and your pointers worth pondering. Thank you once again for being with us today. Ajay, Vikasji, are you there? Yeah, please give your AOE treasurer report.
Okay, so good evening once again. The AOE membership costs rupees 12,000 per annum. The invoices for current financial year has been generated and emailed to everyone. I request all members who receive information on their membership dues to please clear them at the earliest. I thank Baljit sir for making their membership payments on time and Sanjoy Sehgal for making the mentoring payment on time. AOE membership payments can now also be made through debit credit cards and wallets also. Thank you.
So on behalf of Mr. Shishir, he has left a message with me. I would like to thank all present today at AOE August 21 meet. Thank you, AoEan, Ajay, Amar and Aparajita, Amar, for your wonderful presentation. Proud to have you with us at AOE. Thanks to our guest speaker, Mr. Rakesh Mittal. Managingly, I would like to thank all members of the managing committee for being so involved and contributing wholeheartedly to the cause of AOE. Thank you, AOE mentoring team. Your work is very important. Hoping it gets even better in the times to come. I would like to place on record our sincere thanks to AOE Executive Tejinder Singh Bedi for some very good work, for his excellent support to the managing team and to the mentoring group, as well also his relentless follow-up with members and guests. One-to-one has never been easier now that even a Zoom meeting is considered as one-to-one. One-to-one, two people get to know about each other, as you have seen today. Next AOE meeting is on 18 September and this is the annual general meeting. So we will not be having any speakers at that. Apart from the regular AGM matters, we would be inviting thoughts for contributing and improving way forward to AOE. Please try to be present. For October 21st meet, we have a very good speaker lined up. Thanks to Mr. V. Sagar. To AOE members, two things to keep in mind always. The ethos of AOE is sum total of all of us AOEans. Thank you very much.